Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Number 7. Hadith number 7. أيما امرأة استعطرت فمرت على قوم ليجدوا من ريحها فهي زانية. This hadith is found in Sunan Abi Dawood, it's found in Sunan al-Nasa'i, and it's found in many different hadith books as well. Most of the hadith books don't mention the last word that I mentioned, which I'm sure caught all of your attention, right? The word zaniya. So the hadith goes as such, that whichever woman puts itr on, she does what? She puts perfume on, and then she does so, then walks by a group of qawm. What did I say qawm is? Men. Yes. So he says qawm here again. So whenever you see the word qawm, try to remember this, even though translators will say people. Sometimes it means people, but if it's women versus men, like over here it's women put itr on, then she walked by a qawm. So it's referring to men, right? So at that time it's referring to men. So she went by a group of men. لِيَجِدُوا مِنْ رِيحِهَا فَهِيَ زَانِيَةٌ. Why? She's trying to get them to smell her scent of itr, of her perfume. Then she happens to be a zaniya, the Prophet ﷺ said. Now most of the narrations of this hadith don't mention the word zaniya, because even the reporters, as they're reporting this hadith, they thought to themselves, this is a very heavy word. So most of them said, وَقَالَ فِيهَا قَوْلًا شَدِيدًا. He said something really serious about her. Okay? He said something very serious about her. So even the reporters, as they're reading this hadith, they realized the severity of the matter. So most of them, they ended up omitting the final word, and they just said that عَلَى قَوْمٍ لِيَجِدُوا رِيحَهَا ... وَقَالَ فِيهَا قَوْلًا شَدِيدًا.
You can do that. Change the word.
They didn't change the word. They just said, and the Prophet ﷺ said something very serious about her. Okay? They didn't change the word. They just mentioned half the hadith and then... But some of the reports, they came complete. And those reports which came complete, they said, فَهِيَ زَانِيَةٌ. That woman happens to be a fornicator. Now, she's not really a fornicator, because there's a difference between fornication and putting on perfume, isn't it? So in reality, this basically means that she is trying to seek that. Okay? Even if she doesn't have an intention that far, but really, why is she trying to earn the attention of other men? What's the purpose behind it? The eventual goal is to do the ultimate haram, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, he very rhetorically, powerfully said, she is a zaniya, but what he really means is she's like a zaniya, or she's like a woman trying to seek fornication. Now, from this we can take the following, that it is not permissible to put itr on and go outside specifically with the intention of trying to attract attention. Okay? Generally speaking, anything in which a woman is trying to attract attention of the opposite gender is considered haram. Okay? And women may have different ways to attempt to do that. And one of those things is, for example, putting on the cologne, putting on perfume. You can do that at home, no problem. Actually, it's great to do it at home, especially for the husband, etc. Right? Or even other family members, just to look pleasant and smell pleasant. But when you go outside, you have to ensure that there is no itr, that there is no perfume placed. And specifically when it comes to this intention. Now, remember, not everyone who puts on perfume and walks outside, you say this hadith to them and you tell them, oh, فَهِيَ زَانِيَةٌ, right? Because as I said, sometimes people misunderstand the words of the Prophet and then they abuse it in that case. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he brought lam al-ta'leel, he brought lam of illah, which means the lam of a reason. So she put itr on with the intention that she's going to try to attract attention. This type of woman, she's, according to the Prophet ﷺ, a zaniya, i.e. she's hoping to become a zaniya. Okay? So a woman that doesn't have this intention, it's haram for her to do that nonetheless. She shouldn't be putting on itr and going outside. But she doesn't have that intention, she doesn't fall into severe severe warning of the Prophet ﷺ, because he said لِيَجِدُوا رِيحَهَا. And if you look at all the shurrah of hadith, they all mention that i.e. she has the intention to try to attract attention. Okay? So the one who doesn't have intention to try to attract the attention, she's still doing something offensive. But she's not doing something so offensive for which the Prophet ﷺ would be saying such a thing. Right? And because of this, now this is for the men, because of this, the ulama, they said that it is actually impermissible for a man to try to seek pleasure through even smelling the scent of a woman. Okay, unless that happens to be someone that is halal for them, of course. And that's why Ibn Umar used to be very serious about this. He used to make it impermissible for a man to sit in a place in the spot of a woman, unless after a couple of minutes. Right? Because in case if she's wearing some perfume or something like that, the scent might be there and that may give the man ideas. So he would say, okay, wait till she leaves. After she's left, wait till that spot is kind of like if there's any perfume, the scent is left, then you go in and sit in that specific spot. Okay? So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the tawfiq to practice this sunnah of the Prophet, this commandment of the Prophet really. This is a ruling from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And by the way, in this he gave us a warning, right? He gave women a warning. But in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ actually said, وَلْيَخْرُجْنَ تَفِيلَاتٍ. Tell them to go outside without cologne. That was a commandment, straight, clearly. Tell them to go outside without perfume. Okay? And that's in the very next hadith. And that's the reason why I paired these up in this way. Because this hadith shows us the manner of going outside. One of the places that a woman can go and should go is the masjid. And in terms of the masjid, the Prophet ﷺ said, when do not forbid the worshippers, the female worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from going to the masjid, and then when they go outside, وَلْيَخْرُجْنَ تَفِيلَاتٍ. Let them go outside of the home, tafilat, which means unperfumed, no perfume on, right? So the hadith goes as such. The hadith is the hadith of Saleem from Abdullah, who is his father, from the Prophet ﷺ, who said that إِذَا اسْتَأْذَنَتِ امْرَأَةُ أَحَدِكُمْ إِلَى الْمَسْجِدِ فَلَا يَمْنَعْهَا. This is in Bukhari. By the way, this hadith you can take and then you can show it to your husbands, inshallah. Okay? Whenever your woman, your wife asks you for permission to go to the masjid, then don't forbid her. Okay? Don't forbid her. Nowadays, women don't ask permission to go anywhere, to be honest with you. The husband is asking permission. So, this is the type of world we're living in. So when she asked for permission, but subhanAllah, they are sisters, this is something that has become very evidently clear to me in my travels around many different countries and places. I used to in the past teach a class on Salah itself, and in that, as we're talking about Salah, women naturally ask, can I go to the masjid? So many sisters from around the world complain to me that they are not permitted to go to the masjid. Okay? Not by their parents usually by and not by the husbands also do that? No? Mainly by the masjids themselves. Okay? I know in Malaysia generally this doesn't happen. Generally speaking, there's no problem with women going to the masjid. I mean, I was very shocked the first time I went into the musalla at a gas station and I saw a sister praying right next to me. Because sometimes at the gas station musallas, this very small space, so after I said salam and I saw a sister next to me, I couldn't believe it. But if you go, and you should be grateful for this, to be honest with you, that you have the ability to go to a masjid whenever you want. In many countries, this is not there, really. In many countries in the world, this is not there. And masjid boards, they make the lives of women very, very difficult to go to the masjid.
And they lock it.
They don't even just lock it. Sometimes they have very small rooms that are women's space, and even those at Jum'ah time are taken away by the men. And sometimes they're not even open because who's going to be coming to the masjid? And if they come, many times they're told it's haram and it's fitna and this and that. So it's very difficult, really. And I've even, some sisters came to me when I was in, I don't want to mention a name of a city and then the people of that city get mad at me afterwards. But I was somewhere and they told me that their local masjid, they tried to gather charity from the sisters. And sometimes, subhanAllah, sisters are more generous than the brothers. Right? So they tried to gather charity from these sisters, and the sisters, they told me that literally, Sheikh, we took our earrings and we took our jewelry and we sold them to give charity to this masjid. But they told us, they gave us a promise. They promised us that if you donate and get us to this target, and sisters through their links, they ended up getting to that target, we will give you a space in the masjid finally. Now they finally got them the target together, and when the time came, they said, sorry, the board has refused. Believe me, this is a big problem, big problem. And I've told people over here, alhamdulillah, this problem is really not there, but this is the case in many masajids around the world. And sisters, sometimes they live their entire lives that they've never been to the masjid. Why? Because the masjid just doesn't allow them. They cannot go to the masjid. If they want to go, there is no space. Many masajids are like this. Yes, some people are moving on from this. Now, why do they say this? That's really the question. They say this because somewhere in the middle centuries, a notion began among the fuqaha that it's no longer considered permissible for women to go to masjid. Okay? Among some scholars. Okay? Not all scholars. They took this primarily from the statement of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha when she said that if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was to see women today, then he would have forbidden them from going to the masjid. Meaning the way they're being dressed now and so on and so forth. But look at what Aisha is saying. She said, if he saw, then he would have forbidden. Now, didn't the Prophet ﷺ already forecast that women are going to start dressing like this?
Yes.
He said, صِنْفَانِ مِنْ أُمَّتِي لَمْ أَرَاهُمَا. Two qualities from my ummah, I haven't seen them. نِسَاءٌ كَاسِيَاتٌ عَارِيَاتٌ مَائِلَاتٌ مُمِلَاتٌ رُؤُوسُهُنَّ كَأَسْنِمَةِ الْبُخْتِ الْمَائِلَةِ. The hadith we discussed yesterday. Women who are dressed yet undressed. They catwalk when they walk, and on their heads happen to be like camel humps. So he already knows that some women are going to start dressing inappropriately. So why didn't he make the ruling such that don't stop them, but when they're dressed wrong, then at that time tell them to go home? Aisha said if he saw, he would have done so, but he knew and he didn't. And what's important here is that the word law is a article within the Arabic language, which means that it's negation for another negation. Meaning because he never saw, so he never did. Meaning he never actually forbidden. And Aisha's statement cannot overrule the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. That said, even she didn't forbid the woman. Think about that for a second. So she's seeing it, and she's not telling the woman to go home. She said, because she knows she's not the Shari'. She knows she's not the person who can legislate. Allah's messenger is the legislator, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before that is the legislator. So she's not the one that can legislate, and that's why even though she can see the problem, she never told anyone not to go. You see what I'm saying? Okay? But some of the fuqaha, they took this statement of Aisha and then they really expanded it even beyond what Aisha herself had done, because Aisha never told women not to go. She just simply made this comment that she did. Okay? So we say, no, we have to go back to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in this statement, in this regard. And we don't forbid the woman, because the Prophet clearly said, إِذَا اسْتَأْذَنَتِ امْرَأَةُ أَحَدِكُمْ إِلَى الْمَسْجِدِ فَلَا يَمْنَعْهَا. If one of your wives tells you not to go to the masjid, don't forbid her. لَا تَمْنَعُوا إِمَاءَ اللَّهِ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ. Don't forbid the women, the female worshippers of Allah Azza wa Jal, from going to the masjids of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Now, one last thing. And this is very important, because I know some people are going to take this and they're going to say that, you know what, there's in the Hanafi books it says this, and in the Shafi'i books, I know the passages, but people misconstrue these passages as well. What's happening right now as we speak in different masajid, and I reiterate, not here generally speaking, is that the masjid boards are the ones forbidding. No faqih that I know of in the history of Islam has ever said that the nadir, the caretaker of the endowment is allowed to say women can't come. They are even the ones that are saying we should forbid them, they're talking about the guardian, meaning the parent or someone, parent or the husband or something, not the masjids themselves. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if people donate towards a masjid and they're endowing a masjid for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can the person taking care of the endowment say, actually it's for the sake of Allah for all Muslims except for females? Because it was endowed for Muslims in general, it wasn't endowed for males. So considering that, when these masjid boards are even using these particular passages of the fuqaha, they're doing wrong. They're using even the passages of the fuqaha and they're misunderstanding them. Because those passages are not talking about what a nadir is supposed to do, what a person that runs the waqf of the masjid is supposed to do. They're talking about what the guardian should do. And we explained that even the guardian shouldn't be doing this, because today, let's face it, today we're in a time where most people, women go to the malls. I mean, if you go to the malls, mostly they're women, right? And we know in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he said that, and Ibn Hajar authenticated this hadith, he said that the most beloved of the places of Allah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the masjids, and the most hated of the places are malls. So we send all the women to the malls, they're the most hated places to Allah, but over in the masjid it's haram. I mean, to me this is considered misunderstanding of the deen, to be honest with you. This is a clear misunderstanding of the deen. Even if some people have said it in the past, we should move on and we should stay to this day. I mean, think about this. Ibn Umar, he said the wife of Umar used to attend the masjid. And Umar didn't used to like it. Okay? So someone came to the wife of Umar and they said to her that, you know, Umar doesn't like you going to the masjid because he's very jealous. He wants to keep you at home and he doesn't want you to be seen by anyone. Okay? So they said, but why do you continue going? So she responded back, she said that, and what's stopping him from telling me not to go? So they all said, he's being stopped by the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, which says, لا تمنعوا إماء الله مساجد الله. Do not forbid the female worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the masajid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in another hadith of Ibn Umar, and this, by the way, I think that I haven't heard this from anyone before, but I looked at all of these hadith very extensively. I believe this is the madhab of Al Umar in general. The family of Umar in general, this was their madhab. Because Umar ibn Khattab, the example that I gave, Ibn Umar is a reporter. Now he's talking to his son. Ibn Umar says to his son in the next hadith that I'll share with you. He said that don't forbid the women from going to the masjid, the Prophet ﷺ said. And their houses are a better place for them. So the son of Ibn Umar, who's Bilal, his name is Bilal, he said that surely we're going to stop the woman from going to the masjid. Bilal got a little bit, as a youngster. Youngsters are always fiery. When they're, practicing the deen, they think everything is just black and white, and they're a bit so he got a little bit fired. He said, by Allah, I'm going to stop them. Why? Because they're going to, and he literally said, in some of the narrations, he literally said they're going to cause fitna. That's the same argument that people make today. إِذَنْ يَتَّخِذْنَهُ دَغَلًا. They're going to cause fitna, basically, in his own words, he put it that way. It's a very similar thing to what the people say nowadays, even in those countries where women don't get to go to the masjid. They say, oh, they're causing fitna. So Ibn Umar's son, Bilal, he said they're going to cause fitna, that's why I'm going to stop them. So Ibn Umar, he got so angry that in some narrations he slapped him across the face, even though you're not supposed to slap across the face. And in some narrations, he فَسَبَّهُ سَبًّا شَدِيدًا. He cursed him, he swore at him. This is what the hadith said. Okay, meaning he said to him, I'm telling you a hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ and you're saying I'm going to do this? So he basically put him in his place and he told them, and that's why it surprises me, because we tell the people the same thing today, and then they use the same argument that Bilal ibn Abdullah ibn Umar had used, and that is that they're going to cause fitna. So then we have to stop them, right? But when a woman does come to the masjid, then she has to ensure that she's coming with the proper attire. Okay? That she has to make sure that she's coming with the proper attire. And this is found within the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And the hadith goes as such that a woman, she was coming to the masjid and she was wearing perfume. And we already explained the idea of perfume, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, don't stop them from going to the masjid, but they should be coming out without perfume. And it's not just perfume, the idea is they should be coming out reasonably speaking in general, right? And you know, sometimes, subhanAllah, some sisters, it's very shocking. Some non-Muslim women will respect the masjid more than the Muslimah. Because this woman will come and say, this is how I wear, this is how I dress, I'm coming to the masjid, why are you going to stop me? Especially those liberal, feminist-minded type of women, right? So, they're like, oh, this is my freedom and this and that. And then you have a non-Muslim woman, you know, who's not even wearing the hijab. When she comes to the masjid, she puts it on and she tries to respect the sanctity of the place and so on and so forth, which is shocking, right? And this is the reality. Sometimes the faith has become so weak that we have women that are not Muslim, they're respecting the sacredness and the holiness of the masjid more so than women that adhere to Islam. Otherwise, call themselves Muslims, right? So, he said that he saw, Abu Hurairah said he saw a woman walking towards the masjid who was wearing perfume. And he said to her, Ya Amat al-Jabbar. And look at even the way that Abu Hurairah addressed her. Now she's doing something wrong. She's wearing perfume and going to the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ forbade from this. Okay? So, he reminds her of the power of Allah. He says, Ya Amat al-Jabbar. O Amma of the Jabbar. The one who's the most powerful and the one who will address people if they're doing things wrong, okay, that are impermissible. So he reminds her of the Jabarut of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أين تريدين? Where are you trying to go? قالت المسجد. She said, I'm going to the masjid. So he replied to her, and is it because of the masjid that you put on the perfume? وَلَهُ تَطَيَّبْتِ. And it's because of the masjid that you put on the perfume? She said yes. See, why is he asking her this? Exactly. Because remember we said there's a difference between a person who innocently had perfume, and she forgot and she walked out, ran out, had to go somewhere. Okay, but there's another person who put the perfume on for the purposes of going outside. Okay? She's got a different type of intention. So he confirms, Abu Hurairah, with her, وَلَهُ تَطَيَّبْتِ. It is because of the masjid that you put the perfume on? قالت نعم. She said, yes, this is the reason. And this shows you also honesty, subhanAllah. Right? Either that or she may have not known that it's impermissible. Right? So Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he explained to her that he heard from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that أَيُّ مَمْرَأَةٍ تَطَيَّبَتْ. Any woman that puts on the perfume, then goes to the masjid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept her prayer until she goes and takes a shower. And in some of the narrations of this hadith, the woman is described as وَلِذَيْلِهَا إِعْصَارٌ. There was a big storm behind her. What does that mean? You know how there's some women that like they want to be really present. So you've got the high heels to make the noise, and you've got things jiggling and jaggling all over the place. And so the narration literally said وَلِذَيْلِهَا إِعْصَارٌ. And for her, her behind, meaning as she's walking behind her, there's like a storm of perfume scents, storm of things making noise. So it's clear that this woman is trying to seek what? Attention. So because of that, Abu Hurairah, he stopped her and he said, what are you doing? Where are you trying to go? You're trying to go to the masjid? Okay, and then he told her to go home and basically take a shower, and that the Prophet ﷺ said that a woman that goes to the masjid and she's put on a perfume, and specifically with that intention, as we know, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept perfume. Now this obviously doesn't mean personal perfuming. You know what I'm trying to say? Like for instance, when you put some deodorant on, no one is going to smell it outside. The scent is not going to go wild everywhere unless you have a really strong one, especially those spray deodorants, and you put it on your clothes or whatever. But if you're just using deodorant and you're going to be using fragrances and everything. Even when you use a shampoo, there's fragrance. Even when you use lotions, there will be shampoos. Even if you use anything. So this is not, inshallah, these hadith are not talking about personal scent. Yeah, personal hygiene, and it's referring to the type, the perfumes itself, because those people can actually smell. Right? Your lotion on your hand, unless again it's a very strong one, the only person that will smell it is when you're slapping your baby. They'll, oh mommy, it smells nice. That's it. That's not going to be a problem, inshallah. Even a deodorant, it won't be smelled by anybody, at the masjid or outside. So those are not, inshallah, considered within these hadith, because those are personal hygiene, and this, inshallah, I believe this is referring to perfumes that people can actually smell.
Purposely.
Yeah, purposefully. No, even if it's not purposefully, you shouldn't. Even if it's not purposely, you shouldn't be putting it on. Like if it's purposely, then that hadith that I mentioned in the beginning gets implemented. فَهِيَ زَانِيَةٌ. That woman is considered a zaniya. If it's not purposely, like there's no intention to attract attention, then it is still considered impermissible, but it's not that severe of a impermissibility. Wallahu a'lam. So we shouldn't be putting those, women shouldn't be putting those perfumes on when they're going outside. When they're at home, then of course it's considered a good thing to do. Okay?